folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight we got a great show for you with my co-host Lucky Stone. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to talk about this. We'll see where we go from here.
Yeah, we got quite a good show coming up here, all about let's see, as soon as I can get to this. Oh, yeah, my monologue of what we're going to be talking about. Tonight we're going to go deep into the temples, the mystery schools that were set up years ago. Of course, not just stone structures in ancient Egypt, but inner temples of your soul. Tonight we unlock chapters 2 and 3 of Manly P. Hall's Secret Teachings of All Ages. And with them, we enter the mystery schools of Atlantis and Egypt. Ooh, I like that thing. Yes. Anyway, these schools weren't about religion. So if you got that in your head, better sit down and start listening. They were about transformation. They taught how to awaken the divine within, to master the lower self and become something more, something eternal. And here's the twist. They weren't just for the pharaohs or the priests. They were for anyone ready to walk the path. And I believe that includes you right now. So listen up, everybody. Here we go, down the road. What do you think of all that, Lucky?
It's there's so much that we get. Religion now is about following someone else's opinions. And we need to read it for ourselves and then base our own opinions on it. And that's what we need to start doing. And that's what mainly P. Hall was helping us. He wasn't telling us what to think, but helping us find what we think in ourselves. And that was, at least that's what I got from when I read Manly P. Hall.
Yeah. Well, he's giving you the steps. He's saying people before us did it. Mm-hmm. And probably more people before us did it than do it now. And we've forgotten. And here's how to remember. Some of these people from way back when, some of the smartest people in the world, that study, and we still read their works today, Plato, Socrates, et cetera, et cetera. You can go on and on. But those people were very studied in all this. They had followers that learned how to learn and how to think. Now, I guess that's what they really were teaching us, is how to think and think of new ideas. They really never did much in, like they didn't build big monuments and they didn't conquer countries. They conquered the soul and the mind. They let you think out of the box and taught you how to do it. And I think somewhere along the line, people forgotten that. Don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it all goes back to the ancient times when they had many gods, and it wasn't about following. There was always a chief god of the region. But again, you got choices. You had many choices. And Alexander the Great knew that in order to keep the minds and hearts of the people, allow them to keep their gods, but still respect the government. And that's what Alexander. That's why he got so many countries to go, okay, fine. We surrender. We don't want to fight you. And if they didn't, he'd just decimate them, But again, ancient Egypt, they had multiple deities, which they're all above me right here. But the thing was, there was one, King Tut's father, which is even weird, that King Tut's own father said there's only one God, and that's Amun-Ra, which I believe kind of influenced Judaism at some point, but that's a guess.
Yeah.
But again, honestly, it was all about centralizing all the money onto one person. That way, the pharaoh could control everything. If there was one god, it all goes to the pharaoh. Well, he controls everything rather than dealing with the priests.
Yeah.
And now we got one pope, and that's for the Catholicism. But again, a lot of these religions are about the one true God and about telling them, okay, this is what the Bible means, without telling you how to read the Bible. Is telling you what to think each of the things are. But that's our problem. We don't look and say, wait, where did this come from? let me look at the other translations and see what this could also mean.
Yes.
But that's my opinion.
Well, that you're right. It's a lot of it's propaganda, and most of these people were teaching wisdom, and they were teaching, how should I say it? Like if you read the Bible, there you follow Christianity, you read the Bible, and then you go reread the Bible, and then you reread the Bible, and then you reread the Bible. There's no, well, now you're on part 2, and you're going to learn more. No, read the Bible. That's as far as you're going to get. Steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you restart, and like you're some kind of kindergartner and you get to 5th grade and you go back. But these schools were teaching you more how to, these people, I shouldn't say school, maybe it was like a school, but the idea was you're more. And then once you progress to one step, you keep climbing the ladder all the time. You never stop. And I think that's the point. That's why all these Christian people, they study the Bible, they read it, or they just eventually quit after a while, and then they just go on their Sunday thing. They listen to the the priest up there, and he does his weekly sermon, and they go home feeling like happy campers, like, yep, it's all good. When there's no progression, why put a lot of effort into it, right? If you're going to have to repeat the grade, why would you try to pass it?
Well, it's basically just about memorization. You're not actually about thinking about it. It's memorizing. And people who actually pay attention, they go, wait, there's a contradiction here about this section of the Bible and this section of the Bible. They do contradict, and the priest says, no, there's no contradiction. You just don't understand. Here's what it really means, rather than saying, let's discuss this. The real discussion is all about what the church says, not what the truth is. I mean, honestly, there's so many contradictions in the Bible, but they just poo-poo it as, no. That's just your perception. The real reason you're missing the truth, and the word, God is infallible, and the Bible is the word of God. That's it.
Yes.
Not, wait a second, there's something wrong here. Let's talk about this. We can't talk about this. Just read it, know it, move on.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing. So, there's been people who've read this stuff, and then they change their minds, and they change the minds of others, and then the church has to step in and say, listen, this doesn't make any sense, and yada yada yada. So we're going to dive in right into the first part of the ancient mysteries and secret societies, and we're talking about Simon Magus. Simon Magus. I guess that's how it's said. You're the better on pronunciation. The magician of the New Testament and fame. There's kind of a good story that goes along with him. He's supposed to be the father of Gnosticism. So what is this? Simon Magus. Well, anyway, the Christian church was deeming everything that wasn't Christian or might be otherwise inspired by the devil. If they declared they didn't agree with it, it was by the devil, and that was it. That was their reasoning. Pretty simple. We don't like that. That was the devil.
Devil. Gotta watch out for that damn devil. He's everywhere.
Yeah, if it doesn't agree, it's but Simon Magus, he had mysterious and supernatural powers, as I'm supposed the Christian church would have said. I mean, of course, Jesus didn't have any supernatural powers, making water into wine, and bread and fish and appear out of nowhere, and walking on the water. That wasn't supernatural, now was it? It's amazing how they can make one guy good, and the other guy, well, he had supernatural powers, and that wasn't right.
Mm-hmm.
The powers even were conceded by his enemies, but they maintained that these powers were lent to him by infernal spirits and furies, which they asserted were his ever-present companions. Ooh, that's going deep. Mm-hmm. Well, of course, this gets in with Apostle Peter, who eventually according to, we'll just go on this, according to the story the church fathers had preserved, Simon was to prove his spiritual superiority. This sounds like a test. By ascending into the heaven in a chariot of fire. Doesn't that sound familiar? That wasn't there chariots of fire in the Bible? Didn't some other guy ride in a chariot of fire, or there was chariots of fire coming down?
Enoch, I believe, was that Enoch
Yeah.
went to the chariots of fire, which went to heaven?
Yeah, one of them guys. But the whole point is, but that guy could do it, but this guy, oh, not so much.
Yeah, true.
But as the story goes, he was actually picked up and carried many feet into the air by invisible powers. When Peter saw this, he cried out loud, ordering the demons of the spirit of the air to release their hold upon the magician. The evil spirits, when so ordered by the great saint, were forced to obey, and Simon fell a great distance and was killed, which decisively proves the superiority of the Christian powers.
Oh, there you go. The Christian God is superior because he kills somebody. Yeah, okay. Great.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well,
Simon, yeah, that's how it is.
See, that's
Sorry,
the thing.
Simon.
I want you to prove that you can fly up into the heavens, and then you do. And when you do, it's so scary. I am going to order them to stop because that's not right. See, that makes no sense. Just let him go. He's doing the thing you asked him to do to prove it. And what ends up happening? He falls to his death. But anyway, that's how these things work. It's never in the favor of anybody else. It's always in the favor of, the church, the Christian, the whoever's in charge of that at the time anyway. Because now, right now the Pope's in charge, and as the previous popes have said, we're going to welcome the aliens. We're going to, do all these different things. It's like they can snap their fingers and say they've changed their mind, and now what bad was good is good, and what's good is bad. How is that possible? Does God change his mind? No. You did it again. Can't hear you. Can't hear you. Sorry, everybody. Technical difficulties. You should be coming right back. Still can't hear you. Uh-oh. Anyway, what are... Oh, there you are. Almost.
Yeah, I know.
Can say it. Okay, there you go.
I gotta stay still. That's all. I gotta stop moving around. That's all. The table slipped.
Oh. Well, anyway, so, he's Gnosticism. Gnosticism. What is Gnosticism? I got that wrote down somewhere here. But anyway.
The word, it's the knowledge. It's Gnosticism. It means something. It's Greek. Yes.
I got it wrote down here somewhere, I think. But if not, I'll write it again. Oh, I have to Google my thing. What is anyway? He was and the principles behind it. So anyway, all this was good because we know of Gnosticism. Even if Simon didn't survive, his principles survived, and his Gnosticism is, around today. It's a gnosis, meaning knowledge. You're right. An ancient spiritual movement based on the idea of true salvation coming through inner experimental knowledge, not beliefs or rituals or authority, which is what everything of the Christian church is, pretty much. That's why I tell everybody, you got to believe on your own. You shouldn't have to go to a church and believe in a certain religion that, tells you these are the things you have to believe. And if you don't, well, then you're wrong. Because who says you're not right? This, of course, it says Christianity, but it draws heavily from Egyptian, Platonic, Persian, and early Judaism mysticism. It was labeled hearsay by the church and almost wiped out. The core principles of this gnosis is that salvation doesn't come from obeying rules, and it comes from direct personal knowledge of the divine. It is not about believing in God. It's about knowing yourself and doing so. You, remember, God within. Know thyself and you will know the gods and the universe. So there you go. I mean, that's a lot of it. I mean, I guess that's what we talk about a lot of times is, go within, the truth is inside you. Everything is, you are the God. You need to, you're part of the divine spark. Wake up and start smelling the roses.
Yeah, that's it. It's about going within, exactly. Studying. I mean, even the roses themselves, you can learn from them. There's knowledge is everywhere, and unfortunately, religion tells you what to think, while Gnosticism was about learning how to think. It's a difference there, and unfortunately, that's a lot of what we now learn right now is we're told what to think, rather than here's the information. Let's help you make your own conclusions.
Yeah.
And I mean, my favorite thing is a few years ago was settled science. This is all settled science. And every real scientist knows there is no such thing as settled science. There's what we know right now, but it's always evolving. It's always changing with new information, new knowledge. Nothing is settled. Nothing can be settled with science. But again, we were pushed and told this is the truth. Know it, learn it, follow it. It wasn't about here's the information and let's let you make your own decisions. No, there was nothing about that. It's save the world. You're going to protect the elderly and the children. Do you want to kill children and elderly? Settled science. Just do what we tell you. I'm not going to go any further than that.
That is so true. I mean, we do go to school when we're younger, and there are things you need to memorize. So like reading and writing. You need to learn how to memorize letters so you can memorize words so you can spell and communicate with other people. But at some point, you have to use those letters and words and ideas to create on your own a letter, a book, paragraph, an event. If you want to describe anything, and then you use those memorized words to create. But very seldom do they do that. Even math. They teach you 1 + 1 is 2, and then you finally get it. And they teach you algebra, and they teach you subtraction and division and all these other good things. But when you get into the real world, that's where it really starts to play in. And if you can't think, well, then all that was just wasted. 2 + 2 is 4. But if you have 5 and you don't really know what that is, that doesn't do you any good because all you know is the paperwork.
True. That's go. Yeah, right there. You know the paperwork, but you don't know how you got there.
And I think that's why so many people fall on their faces these days, or especially now more than back in the day, is because they go to work, they make money, they put it in the bank, and then they get a credit card, and then they charge, and they don't realize that the money they put in the bank is less than what they're charging. Or if they buy a car and it's, again, with, we talked about this on one show a while back about buying something and not realizing the interest behind it because they never did the math. They know how to add and subtract, but then they don't know how to realize that the math keeps going after you buy the car.
True. That's the truth right there. That's very true. You don't, it keeps going and going and going. That's the problem with credit cards.
Yes. And people don't think of that part of it because, again, this world that we live in, this is another part of Gnosticism, is the material world is a trap. That was one of their big ones. Gnostics viewed that the material world is a prison or an illusion. created not by the true God, but by a lesser being called the demiurge. This false God kept us distracted with ego, power, pleasure, and fear. Which today it sounds like today's world. The demiurge. What do you make of the demiurge?
It makes a lot of sense when you study the Bible. In the beginning, there's God created man and woman in our image. And then, oops, God created Adam and they ripped his rib out, which actually meant his part of him, and created Eve. So man was created twice. So could it have been that God created man and then afterwards left because he got bored? Who knows? And then he left the guy. You're in charge. And the demiurge is now here. And, maybe there were two. Maybe one was the snake, the serpent, and one was the other one. They were fighting with each other and taking control. But who knows? But again, yeah, this world is a struggle, but it's also a beautiful place, depending on what your mindset is. I mean, it's amazing what the same situation can mean to two different people. So this place, this earth, can be heaven or hell, depending on your perception. And you said it, Brian, be the frequency you want to receive. That's the truth right there. If you have a bad mindset, you're going to have a bad time here. If you have a good mindset, it might not always be great, honey and roses, but it'll be good enough and you'll do fine. And who wants to have a perfect life? You want a good enough life to enjoy it. But perfection, for us humans, I don't think we can handle perfection because we get bored. I don't want to be bored. I don't think it's boring, but I have seen people who have everything and they end up collecting and collecting and collecting, and then they get more and more and more. I mean, people close to me. I mean, me, yes, I have a credit card and I use it. I actually have 3 credit cards and I use them, but I pay them all off because I use them only because they give me points and I pay them off. And that's foreign to a lot of people. Yeah. And my poor credit, my credit, what is it, rating, they go, oh, your credit rating's gone down. Oh, it's gone up. Oh, it's gone down. It's gone up. Because I pay it off, it pisses off the credit bureaus. But because I pay it off so much, it increases it. So the credit bureaus, they want you to have, debt, but they also want you to pay it off. So they're got 2 faces themselves. So I don't care. I use it because of the economy, and using cash is tough sometimes. Having a credit card also makes it easy because everything's electronic. But I have a lot of cash on me too, just in case. So I think that's the best way of living. Do both. Have credit card, have cash, pay the credit card off, be happy. Because credit card companies are over 20%. And that was a Democrat who put that. Bill Clinton allowed the banks to charge over 20%. It wasn't a Republican who did that. It was a Democrat. Yeah. And, once I saw my credit card went over 20% interest, I'm like, no way am I using this thing. Then I was like, well, I do have to use it because it's just easier. Okay, I won't have any debt.
Yeah, and that's one of the big things, and that's what people don't seem to comprehend is, I don't have money. I want to go out and party this weekend, so I'll pay it off next weekend, and then I just don't have quite enough, and then I'll pay it off the following week. I'll throw more money at it next time. And then it climbs and it climbs and it climbs. And of course, that whole entire time you're paying interest. Exactly. It's all about the materials. It's our wants. Pamela Jean says, I'm not materialistic. A lot of people say I'm not materialistic, but I think deep down, we're all conditioned to be materialistic in some way, shape, or form. It might not be much, but it is something. Otherwise, you'd live in your house with a table, a chair, a pair of pants, a shirt that you could change back and forth while you're washing the other one. No knickknacks on the wall. Basically, one dish, and there you'd be, a spoon and a fork. You're ready to go. Well, kind of like the settlers did. I went to those museums where they have a settler's cabin, and you walk in there, and there's nothing in there. It's just the basics. Literally the basics. no fancy TV, no running water, no nothing. A bed, a
Mhm.
table, a chair, something to eat out of, something to wash your hands in, and tools that you need to survive. Mhm. Pretty much it.
Mhm.
Some blankets to keep you warm at night. But yeah, that's where I think people lose it, is because I'm kind of like that. I got like I said, I got the 52 flashlights hanging around here. I got 3 of them sitting here on my table. Oh, I bought this cool new little one here too the other day. It's like, ooh boy, that one's really bright. But anyway, I shouldn't have bought that, but looked like a good deal. And I love my flashlights. It's got a little clip on there. I thought I could put it on my hat, for like a. Anyway, see how materialistic it's like. I got 50 flashlights. I don't need another one, but I bought one anyway.
Yeah, yeah. I the trails I hike, some of the little markers have fallen off the trees because the trees actually grow around the nails and they fell off. So the markers
Yep.
fell off. So I said, I'm going to put some of them up. Oh, I must have some nails. For the life of me, the only nails I could find was like these 4-inch nails, which I don't know where I got these things. But I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to use up my 4-inch nails. And I'm like, wait a second. I have about, I don't know, about this much, about just, there's so many of these 4-inch nails. They're like this. I only need like a small nail to put these little markers on. And I realized, wait, I don't even need the 4-inch nails. I only need like 6 of them. So I just, okay, I waste 6 of my 4-inch nails, and it didn't put a dent in my nail supply. And then,
Yeah.
of course, I go out and then I nail them on the trees. I'm all set. Great. And I come home, and then I find the smaller nails with I think they're for roofing nails, because I
Yep.
needed the big head to
Yep.
hold them on there. I'm like, oh, this is what I needed. Yeah. Yes, I'm a packer and I have a lot of stuff because I might need it later. And yeah, I do need them later, but I don't need this much for later. I just need a little bit for there. But
You never know.
that's the problem. Flashlights, one thing is like when the lights go out, you really need it. But I do have I do have flashlights myself. I have one in every room, and I check the batteries once in a while because if the power goes out at night, it's nice to have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anyway, yeah, getting back to the demiurge. Gnostics was of the opinion that the demiurge was the cause of misery and
Mhm.
was a evil creature. I can tell you who the evil creature is. I know. Other people. People. Really, I'm serious. Most of the problems in this world were created by people. If nature was left alone to survive and people lived inside of nature instead of outside of nature, there wouldn't be any of these problems. We wouldn't have the pollution. We wouldn't have, the forests all cut down. We wouldn't have all the animals going extinct. We wouldn't have all that if people lived, with nature instead of outside of nature. Well, there's only a few left. Let's put them in a zoo. And then we can build a house and a condominium right there where those animals used to live. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and but it's man creating the problem. Man creates these laws. Man creates, crazy laws sometimes, crazy ways of doing things, crazy products. Like now, our world is being invaded with plastic. It's quite the problem. Years ago, when we were growing up, all the cans were tin cans, literally tin, and or glass. I remember taking the glass bottles back, which would get recycled and or used again or something like that. I don't know what.
See, that's it. That's what happened. Is that the soda manufacturers had to have factories in all these states, and they just refilled the bottles, and they decided, yeah, we don't want that. We want to be able to have something cheap and lightweight, which is plastic. And that's why plastic became popular, is because the soda manufacturers didn't want to just keep refilling these glass bottles. So, and then it was like these plastics are everywhere. So they made it our responsibility to be recycling. rather than going, you know what, we have to do something better. We have to fix this. Yeah, you're right. If you studied how it went from glass to plastic and then plastic to recycling, it's crazy. I mean, corporations, wow, some of the stuff that they pull, and they go, well, it's the consumer's fault. No, we're addicted. They get us addicted to these fucking things. I'm sorry. They get us addicted to these things, and then they make it our responsibility to figure it out. Figure it out for yourselves, rather than, we had a good system going where we had the glass bottles, and I remember, hell, up until the 80s, there was a guy who kept having. He had a glass machine. You basically put your coins in, and you pull the glass bottles out, and then and then when you drink your drink, you give them back to him. Everything was happy and jolly, and then after he had to stop doing it mid 80s because he couldn't get the glass bottles anymore. He couldn't get them refilled. He couldn't get them, and he had to, and he ended up stopping. He didn't have any soda anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad that way, because now everything's plastic bottles, plastic. And, it was a cheap solution. Our milk used to come in those cardboard containers. And I remember my mother cutting them in half and then making growing plants in them and stuff. Yeah. And now it's plastic containers.
Yeah. As a kid, we used to make projects. You had to bring in your make sure you washed them before you brought them in, and then you bring them in, and then we would have projects, because elementary school we had all these projects with milk. Wow, some of the stuff we used to pull with those. Yeah.
You people out there remember those projects? Leave it in the comments, or put it in the thing underneath the show here. Let me know what projects you made with those milk cartons. Anyway, back to our thoughts here. But yeah, everything has become disposable. It's become throwaway. So we consume more, and now we're wrecking our world. We're finding out that plastic's everywhere because we become too materialistic. But nothing's lasting anymore. Our cars. You got a fairly new car. How much metal's in that car?
No, I have a 2012.
Yeah, but still, that's a newer car, and the dash is plastic. The seats are made of some sort of plastic fiber, of some sort. The carpeting is made of nylon, which is plastic. The knobs are all plastic. Everything pretty much inside the car is plastic. The hubcaps used to be metal. They're plastic now, unless you get steel rims. The grill used to be solid metal with chrome on it. Now it's plastic with chrome on it. Which doesn't even make any sense.
It's plastic so it can be lighter weight, so they can fuel economy. But again, that's another game where they can make things more fuel. All the stories, they can make things much more fuel economic, but there's a balance where they, the fuel companies want, they don't want to be that fuel economy. It's a racket. Everything we live in is a whole racket. I mean, the electronic cars, that's another racket, because all the power to make the electricity, people are making big money from the power companies. It's all a racket.
Yeah, it is. It's all a racket, because the copper that goes into those cars. They were talking about how many hundreds of pounds of copper goes into an electric car. Again, we're kind of getting off the topic, but it's materialism, and that's pretty much what the Gnostics were saying. He says I think the demiurge is the materialism. It's people, So keep that in mind, everybody. Okay. Oh, somebody already mentioned the archons and the demiurge. The number 4th on the list was the demiurge and the archons. The demiurge, a blind, arrogant creator who believes he is God, often linked to the Old Testament God, controversially. Archons, rulers or cosmic prison guards who keep souls trapped in material illusions. Huh. They must run all these companies, don't they?
Power corrupts. And I mean, Armin Steiger always says, if you're God, why would you want worshipers? If you're an omnipotent God, why would you need worshipers? And then you go down to like, why would a God need people to worship him? And then you go back down to, the God that we worship. Maybe he isn't, the Almighty God. Maybe he needs the attention, and maybe that's why he needs the worshipers. And maybe he isn't all powerful. Maybe he is fallible, and these are all things that you can't say to a religious person, because if you prove it, like, why would God need worshipers? And that you never get a straight answer for that one. So if you're an omnipotent God,
starship. That was funny in that. You've seen that movie, Star Trek with the.
I seen all of Star Trek. Yes, yeah, it was 5.
And why would God need I think that was a pun to because people repeat that. Even years and years later, they repeat that part. But the point beyond what he said is, why would God need something materialistic to do things with? If you're God, you created all the material, as we are told to believe that God created everything. So why would he need something materialistic or worshipers or any of that stuff to continue on? He's already got it.
That actually makes a huge point. What's the first crime that happened in the Bible? When Cain killed Abel. And why did Cain kill Abel? Because God didn't like Cain's present, and he preferred Abel's present, which is blood and meat, towards Cain, who worked his butt off to harvest these crops.
Mm-hmm.
Why would God need crops or meat?
Meat, yeah.
Yeah. Why? And what happened to, why did Cain kill Abel? Because God was just being mean. And he blames Cain for killing his brother, but Cain was just so frustrated. He did all this hard work, and God says, "No, Abel did much better than you, Cain." And Cain's like, "I worked my butt off for this." So yeah, why would God need meat? Why would God need blood? Why would God need crops? Even Zeus. They made a deal, and Zeus took the big pile. It turned out to be the organs and the stuff that the people didn't want to eat, and the good meat went to the people. But there was the deal, and why would a God need meat unless they need something? Maybe they're not omnipotent, they're not all powerful. You're right. Yeah. It's all about the pleasure, about living, and about materialism. Wow.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Because if you're God, why would you want somebody to go out and kill the animals that you already put here on the earth? Just to see, that somehow doesn't make any sense. Again, we start looking at it going, this is a human trait, not a godly trait. At least, not how I would consider. I mean, that's just my opinion, but my consideration of a true God wouldn't be that he needs to have meat or vegetable food or any of that stuff. He could create his own. He shouldn't need any of that stuff. He shouldn't need me to worship him. All he should probably want to do is, if whatever he creates, is observe the experience that thing is having, regardless of what it is. That should be enough. That should be enough, good or bad. I mean, if that's the case, then why did he create evil if he created good? Then everything should be just good. He could snap his fingers and poof, everybody's going to be good. He could wipe badness out in a heartbeat. That part makes no sense. But then again, if you look at the laws of the universe, the laws of the world, you have to have opposites, of each other to make everything go round. You have to have light and dark. You have up and down. You got to have good and bad, the yin and the yang for everything. Otherwise, nothing works. And I was talking about that the other day, winning the lottery. You can't win the lottery. And if you did, you're not going to be happy if you don't know what to do with it or how to act or be with the money. And how do you get things? You got to give things away to get things. You can't just keep getting without giving, because eventually, the old saying is true. Your cup is full. You can't get no more. So anyway,
that's true.
Yeah. but you notice these billionaires, they're always giving money away to charities and things and blah 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 blah. Give, and then they get richer and richer and richer and richer because they're pouring out. At the same time somebody's pouring in, they're pouring out.
Mm-hmm.
They're just getting more. But anyway, what is a Gnostic viewpoint concerning the Christ? This is going to be a tough topic because as I go through all my studies and friends and people I've talked to, they don't know what the Christ is. They think it's Jesus Christ. That's what it is. They don't even know what the Christ is.
Mm-hmm.
It is a not a person. Put it that way. It's not a person. Anyway, it's a state of being. Christ-like. Doesn't mean like Jesus. It means Christ-like. The words escape me. Lucky, help me out with this. All I'm thinking is a state of being or a frequency that you're in. The whatever it is. I don't know.
Well, it's a mindset. It's a spiritual mindset. I mean, what the main thing about Christ is he says treat others how you want to be treated, and it's a two-way street. You want to make sure that everyone treats you how you treat them, and you treat everyone kindly. So, how you want to be treated, you treat others, and how others, want to be treated. You expect them to be treated how they want to treat you. And it's about fairness. It's about doing the right thing and knowing that the right thing is easy. We say, oh, sometimes you don't know what the right thing is. The right thing is easy. And that's all Christ said. Just go out. But unfortunately, part of the religions of today is about converting and about proselytizing and about sinning and about saving others. And that's Christ never was about that. He was about being good to each other, taking care of each other, and loving your neighbor. That's it. That's it. Simple. But we get stuck in, converting and teaching and proving that how much better we are than everyone else because we have a better version of Christ. Yeah,
exactly. Well, in there, they were talking about the Gnostic point of view. We're still talking about them. They were talking about being a savior, and I think that Christ got pinned on as a savior, and the savior was based upon existing sculpturings and paintings of the pagan sun gods. They were all Christianity had. And then to the Gnostics, the Christians, the Christ was the personification of the gnosis, the divine mind, and emands from a higher spiritual eons or eos or whatever. And then that descended into the body. And that could have been Jesus, it could have been Buddha, it could have been any of them guys, because they had that higher spiritual, they had divine mind, the gnosis, the knowledge, all of that stuff, put together. And that's what it is. But they didn't get that way by watching, boob tube all night and going to a football game, or they didn't get that by sitting home and doing nothing. They didn't get that by going to work every day and then coming home and then turning on the TV or reading the paper, the propaganda, or going to the store and doing some shopping. You're hitting all of those things they talked against. The materialism, the propaganda, all of that stuff is what most American people, at least American people, do. I don't know about other countries, but most American people, that's what they do every night, every day, every weekend. They fall prey to every single one of those things. And nobody wants to know anything.
Well, it's because remember also, a lot of the same people are being pumped with fear. The world is terrible. What the politicians are doing, it's all terrible. And, the bad guys are coming and fear. And then sometimes you need to get away from the fear. So you end up watching the movies and the TV, and try to get away from it. And it's basically, you never live in the real world because when you go to the real thing, I mean, LA is a big example where I was talking to a friend of mine And he got calls from like, "Oh, you okay? You okay?" He lives in L.A. He goes, "Yeah, I went out for boba tea. I walked to my neighborhood. No big deal." Yeah, but L.A.'s on fire. It's 1 square mile of LA, and LA is like 30, 40 miles, square miles, and just one part of it is on fire, fighting, and the rest of it is safe and fine, like it's always been. But
Isn't there like 10 million people that live in LA?
There are so many people in LA that I think there are more people in just the LA than there are in all of New England. My section of the country, the Northeast,
Mm-hmm.
not including New York, but all Northeast, there are more people in LA than there are in most of New England where I live. And it's just amazing. There's all this land. It's all crunched into a certain area. And of course, only little teeny tiny pieces on fire. The rest of it is just this LA. It's fine. And, you got the suburbs and everything. I mean, I think it's like Boston. Boston is, you consider Boston, it's a lot more square area than we consider Boston because it's just easier that way. That's LA just kind of, it's LA County rather than LA City itself. I don't exactly understand it, but I know there are more people in California than there are in the whole country of Canada.
Yeah.
That's another thing is that I got frustrated when they had all the fires and everything in California, and they were asking for help. But California makes more money than most of the country, that they can support themselves, that they don't need to ask for other places. They're not asking the government for help because California makes so much money. And it's like, why are they asking? I mean, that's when North Carolina was just barely functioning after the hurricane, and then they had the wildfires in California, and California wanted more help. And it's like, North Carolina needs more help than California. California is making lots of money as it is, but it looks good. It's good for the TV. It's good for the.
Absolutely. Well, see, that's the thing. That's exactly what happens. You get
California is much prettier than California is much prettier than North Carolina. Poor North Carolina.
Yeah. Well, it's true, and then they get the really good weather in California too, where a lot of big coastline. People love going down by the coast, but and the ocean stuff is just phenomenal. But the big part of it is that when people all live together and like that, and then they propaganda, oh boy, 1 mile of this is they're having riots there. It's like we don't tend to look at a map and really consider that it's way less than we're being told. One corner of the block is on fire, so they make it out like the whole place is burning down, and it's like everybody's fighting everybody. Well, if 10 million people came out of their homes and started fighting their neighbors, maybe then it should be worthy to talk about. But it's not like that, because as I stated before, 99% of people are actually pretty good people. They want to just live their life, go to work, have a good time, go home, be with their families, etc., etc., etc. It's that 1%, that really cause all the troubles. That's really it.
Well, no, that's the truth. And unfortunately, they get all the press. They get all because, fear sells really well. Oh my goodness, we got to watch out for the bad guys. They're everywhere. No, they're not. No. I mean, my city, it's all proud because there hasn't been a single murder in all my city all year, and they had 5 at this point last year, and they're all which is great. But then you look at a few towns over, and they've got they've got double digits of murders, and it's like, wait, what is my city doing better than the other one? Well, for the most part, we get along. I mean, it doesn't matter if Hispanic, black, white. We pretty much get along, and there's no real section that's one race or another. Just kind of the whole city is kind of a melting pot, an amalgam. It's works out pretty well.
Yeah,
we still fight, we still argue.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, I agree. There's arguing, and then there's riots, and
yes, exactly.
There's no peaceful riot. There's always there's protests that are peaceful, but there's no peaceful riots as they're making it out to be. Oh, they're just peaceful riots. They're just out there burning a few cars and burning some buildings and throwing some rocks at the police. That's wrong. Again, with the, trust your gut, what it says, it means it's wrong. The truth is simple. Being good is
Well,
easy.
that's the problem, is they call it a peaceful protest when they're throwing rocks. Once you start throwing things, you're not peaceful anymore. Even if one of you is throwing something, it's the responsibility of the other one to say, hey, don't throw things. You don't do that. But
Mm-hmm.
it's about responsibility. You want to have a protest, fine. Have a protest, a peaceful protest. But if someone's causing trouble, you've got to out them and say, no, that's not what we're doing. Martin Luther King Jr., they went through a lot of crap. They suffered. But Martin Luther said, we have to be the best. We have to be the better man. And he proved it. And they got sprayed with, water hoses, attacked by dogs. And he showed them how to handle getting bit. I was reading this about, he was showing them how to be bitten by a dog. You put your arm out and your leg out. So you push, the dog bites your arm. It's going to hurt, but it's not going to get anywhere more at your body, because the dog, once it gets a hold of you, it's not going to let go. And that was the whole story. He was teaching people how to be attacked by a dog in the safest way possible, because he knew they were going to bring the dogs out. How to be beaten. You go down. Oh, it's just craziness. But he proved peaceful protest will work. Of course, you also have the news,
Yeah. And you also have to have numbers. Also have to have numbers. He had great numbers of people. Like you said, in LA, they're doing these riots. Do they have great numbers of people, or are they just using a lot of violence to get the point across? And that's what I'm wondering.
It's good for the TV. It's good for the news. The violence it sells. And it's. And somehow the ones doing the violence are the good guys, and the ones trying to stop them are the bad guys, which is really weird.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing political. This is just obvious. If you're gonna do violence, you're not the good guy. Stop being violent. You can protest all you want. I can understand you don't like the situation. Fine, protest. Oh yeah, you don't like the situation, protest. But once you start doing negative things, throwing, looting stores. It's not their fault, and that's another thing, is when they loot the stores don't come back, and then the people complain that they can't buy anything because there are no stores in their city. This is the messed up thing we live in. And they start suing the department stores for not coming back, when this department store says, you burned our store down. We're not coming back, you crazies.
Yeah, well, exactly. 99 Show says, I don't think there was much violence today. There was probably just as much violence today as there was yesterday, except for the fact that it wasn't on the news.
That's the thing. The news shows it off. I mean, in my city, there's a small, it's a chain of grocery stores. And there's like 4 in the city. And one of them, they just shut down. And people got mad. Like, well, we're leaving our city. Well, how are we going to get groceries? Because there was so much shoplifting in that one store that they said, we can't afford to keep here. And then they got mad because they left. And it's like, yeah, we just can't, handle it. Because, unfortunately, a lot of people shoplifting didn't have cars, and that's one of the things, is they would shoplifting because, they'd sell the stuff, and it made it more difficult for them to shoplift if they're going to steal and not have to go further away. So it's crazy, So if you want to keep the store, you got to stop shoplifting. You got to prevent the shoplifters, Well, what are you going to do?
Exactly. Well, one of the last parts of this Gnosticism, we'll go back to the book, get back on our subject, is kind of what we've been talking about. Gnosticism divided humanity into 3 parts. Those who are savages worshipped only the invisible. That's pretty much what we're talking about. Nature, those who, like the Jews, worship the demiurges. I don't know how that plays in. And lastly, themselves, or the other or similar cult, including certain sects of Christians who worship the Gnosis, or the Christ, the true spiritual light of the higher eons. And I kind of agree with that. You got the people who worship idols. You go to that church and you got the big Jesus on the cross, or you got the 42 different statues out there, and oh my gosh, it says right there, don't worship engraven images. But I don't
Mhm.
remember how many times I watched somebody praying to the Virgin Mary and her statue all the time. And then of course, you got the people who are the gnosis, no, who are from worship gnosis, the knowledge. And knowledge will get you places. Wisdom. If you know things, you become wise. And then one thing I want to put in with being wise, you actually have to go do things to be wise.
Mhm.
You can't have no experience and be wise about it. That is
That's
not
exactly it. Yes. Wisdom comes from experience, not just from reading, it's from using that knowledge. And yeah,
Mhm.
you're right.
Yeah,
True.
yeah. And if you spend all your time that you are worshiping something or some idol of something that you don't really, know what it really is, then and started looking at knowledge and studying and learning, I think you'd be a lot farther ahead. Um, well, you've said before where you've seen statues of things that spirits have been tied up in. Is that not
Yeah.
true?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's happened quite a bit, yeah.
And what if that spirit is tied up, attached to that statue, and somebody decides they're going to start worshiping that statue? Look, I'm getting blurry.
Yeah, you're
There you
blurry. I don't know what you did with your camera, but yeah,
go.
it's
I don't know, I
it's
didn't
it's,
do
it's
anything.
getting
I
better.
was like,
Yeah.
oh man, I'm blurry. I better go back and forth a little bit. It's got to
Yeah,
focus in.
that's how cameras are.
So what do you
Um
think of that?
well, honestly, that's what the reason why the attachment to the statue is because people are respecting it. They're doing things with the statue. So yeah, they want that attention. Yeah. So it's kind of like the opposite. It's like people are respecting, people are getting flowers, people are doing things to the statues for a reason, and that's when the attachments start happening, where the spirits want that attention and they can share it, which is weird, but is a lot to. I mean, the memorials are one of the biggest things. You put an angel in a place where people died, and you put flowers on it. It's gonna get sapped up with spirits, going to attach themselves to it because they want that energy. The flowers and the aren't as important as the respect and the energy of people coming. And yeah, it's quite interesting.
Hmm.
Me who sees a lot of spirits,
Mm-hmm.
I don't see demons. I don't meet. Every time I met a demon, this is my job to protect it, and the protector was caused by human beings who put them there. You're right. Humans create demons. That's one of the things that it's a lot of people who said, "Oh no, demons are real." Yeah, demons are real, but they're all created by people, not spirits. They're not outcasts, bad angels. They're just negative energies from human beings that put them there. But that's
Mm-hmm.
just my
Yeah.
opinion. I'm not perfect. I have my own perceptions, and this is what I come up with.
No, but that's the whole thing. Maybe somebody else. That's the whole point of this is to have a discussion where if I put out something or you put out something that whoever's listening resonates with that, or maybe they had same experience, or they have the same idea, but nobody really ever listened to their idea. Now they know somebody else out there is thinking the same thing. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's how I ended up in this place right here, is because when I was tuning the channels and I came across Brian's channel and I started listening back in the day when it was a Milky Way Messenger, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, this guy resonates with me. The things I have always been thinking and I wasn't quite sure about, and I thought I was the only one that ever thought of any of this stuff. Well, I wasn't. It was a whole group of people that are thinking like me. And here's a guy telling stuff just like I was thinking. And I was like, well, I gotta start listening to this guy because he's really speaking to stuff that I really can comprehend with. And I think that's where we're going with this today.
Mm-hmm.
One last thing I want to get out here, and that is so many people, they pray to these gods, they follow religion for one thing, the end, and they want salvation because they had a really terrible life, things went bad, And with these mystery schools and things, they've taught other stuff, not just, oh, pray a lot and you'll go to heaven. Pray more and you'll get to heaven. Maybe give some money to the church and we'll pray for you to get to heaven. But, the Gnosticism it doesn't mean being forgiven for all those sins you created, because really those sins you think are sins, they're just experiences, places where you made mistakes, or you think back and you think, well, maybe I shouldn't have done that, or that was really bad. I really didn't want to do that. And what it means means waking up. It means escaping the illusion of the physical world and the mind traps of the archons and returning to your divine origin. So that's salvation. It's not about being, well, some other guy's going to come in and you're going to pray to him, help me, help me, help me. And then, I know I was bad. Okay. I stood in the corner for a little while. Now do I get to go to heaven? It's realizing and waking up that you did all those things. They weren't quite perfect, but now I know better. And, you have that knowledge, and I'm waking up to that was wrong. I realized those things were wrong, and now I'm a more powerful, knowledgeable, and I have more wisdom being. Now I'm ready to move on to a higher spiritual realm, if I should say that even. But anyway, something on that order. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I actually remember when it was my first communion. I had to, before you had the first communion, you had to sit with the priest in confession. You had to go to confessional.
Yep.
And I was terrified because I couldn't think of anything to confess because I didn't want to lie.
Yep.
Because I was a good kid. And I had to confess all, what I did bad. And I'm like, I haven't done anything bad. I have nothing to tell the priest. And he was just pulling, and I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. I fought with my sister. Fine. I didn't respect, I didn't follow my parents exactly what they said. Okay. I got something like that. The priest was just pulling things out of me. And I'm like, no, I don't swear. I don't know. No, I don't do anything like that. So, one of the things is my biggest fear was I had nothing to confess. And then the poor priest is just, I think he spent like 3 times longer with me because I didn't know what to say. But I had to confess something in order to move on to the next level. I don't know. But
no,
yeah, that's it.
I'm right there with you, because I did the same thing, and it was like, I don't know what I did wrong. It's like, hey, what did you do wrong today? I don't know. I think everything I did was right.
I was a good kid. I mean, I worked on a farm. I mean, I got up before going to school. I clean the animals, fed the animals. I took a shower, got ready for school, went to school, made my own lunch. All these things that, I don't think any kids now. My own kid didn't do that, But but that's one of the things. It's like, wow, it was fun, So.
No, I agree. I did the same thing.
Yeah.
We had a farm. We had cow and horses and stuff, and I had to get up in the morning and do all the chores. So I was right there with you. I didn't have time to be bad,
Exactly. That's the truth.
Yep, that was good. Hey, I'm a hardworking kid. What do I got to tell you? I don't know. My mind is blank for that. Anyway, so the thing is, it's all about experience. See, that's the thing. I think they want to make you think you did a whole bunch of bad stuff. And then then that hurts your ego. Like, oh man, I did all these bad things. The priest thinks I'm a horrible person now. Because I have to do something. Yeah, geez. But anyway, it's just a thing. It's a thing. Like I said, we're human. We're gonna make mistakes. Me and my buddy were talking one day and said about the 10 Commandments, and he's like, nobody can complete the 10 Commandments ever. They're set up there for you to fail one way or another. You're gonna fail. You can try, and you might do 2 or 3 or 4 of them, but somewhere or other along the other bunch, you're going to fail. You're going to hit one of those rocky bumps, and it just ain't going to be quite perfect. And oh well, So there you go. Anyway, we should wrap this up. It's been a little over an hour, and I think we did pretty good on our anything else you want to hit on with this? The Gnostics or the mystery schools or something like that?
It's all very interesting about the Gnosticism, about that the God that we're all trying to worship is actually the bad guy, and
Yeah.
And the truth is that we've got to find it in ourselves, and it's all what Jesus taught. I mean, Jesus, the real, literally Jesus, just said, "Be good, take care of each other, be nice." And then the religion says, "Oh, fight and be saved by Jesus," and it's so contradictory that what Jesus actually taught, word for word from Jesus, is so different than what else is in the Bible about hellfire and brimstone and pain and suffering. I mean. My favorite thing is that when everyone, if Jesus comes back and he says, "We love you, Jesus. We hold the cross," and he goes, "What would make you think I'd want to like the cross?" That's the weirdest thing. Is all we worship the torture device of Jesus. It's the most bizarre thing when Jesus wasn't about punishment or pain and death. It was about taking care of each other and being good and being kind. Oh well.
Yeah.
It's the truth, and a lot of the religion is about pain and suffering and, and dying and just bad things and fighting each other and killing each other because you don't have the right version of Jesus. Well, Jesus would never believe in that. He would just say, just be good to each other. What else is worth it? Love your neighbor. You're all neighbors. Be good to each other. But what are you going to do?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they should bring back those mystery schools. Because so many people are into this, materialism. They don't know what they're stuck in these churches, repeating words and sentences. Like how many times? What I'm sure that priest told you go out after you did all those bad things and say Hail Mary 14 times or 10 times and do the Our Father, 10 more times and say your rosary, 15 more times, and and go on and on. It's like, oh my gosh, just because I repeat a sentence over and 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 over, that's gonna make all those bad things I did go away.
Well, the funny part is the priest said, "Want me to help you with," because he said I had to do what Hail Marys and Attic and Christian, blah, blah, blah. "You want me to help you?" I'm like, no, I know him. And I knew him word for word because I was a good kid and I studied up. So I said him, and he goes, "Okay, that's fine. You can go sit down and say the rest of them by yourself." I'm like, cool. And I went to the pew and kneeled down and said my prayers. And, and of course the other kids are like, "You don't have to do it all. Don't worry about it." No, I have to do it, and of course, this is when the nuns are taking us out, and I'm like, "No, I haven't done yet." And of course, they're like, "No, the other kids are done. You're done too." I'm like, no, I haven't done it. The priest said I had to do what he does. I was like I said, I was an honest kid, didn't understand about the idea of taking shortcuts.
Yeah, that's right. And everybody else did because they call even the nuns. Even the nuns know. Well, the other kids finished. You're done too now. We're moving on. Like whatever. It doesn't matter. They all knew it didn't matter.
That's the truth right there.
Well, this has been an interesting show, all from this book, The Secret Teachings of Manly P. Hall here. The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. Brings up a lot of stuff, and we're going to continue on with this book, probably for a few more weeks, because there's a lot in there. So, he revealed a lot, most of the things we still don't know. That Egypt and Atlantis started, who knows, and the mystery schools. He held the keys to transforming the mind and the body and the spirit. And I think we should continue on with that. So everybody get out there, dig up a book, go study this book. Put down the remote. Grab a book. Look some stuff up. And then go to your magic mirror and Google it if you don't know what it means. And learn something. Maybe it'll make you a better person with the gnosis instead of the nousis. You get what I mean? The now.
Yeah.
Or that's what everybody lives in, the now. Hey, I'm going to order it and I'm going to have food brought to my door by some guy. And then there I go blurry again. I don't know why that's happening. Anyway, And I'm going to order Amazon, and I'm going to expect it to be here tomorrow because I'm in the now. The now. I want it now. And I want all this material stuff now, no matter what the cost. Right?
No,
So
that's
with
true.
that, have
Yeah.
less, do more with the mind, follow the heart.
Mhm.
Right? So with
True.
that, everybody, try to follow your mind, try to follow your heart, because that's the only place it's going to get you. Reach out to your neighbor. And if you express yourself to your neighbor with your mind and your heart, you will be the frequency you want to receive, everybody. Love you all. Peace, everybody.